Ladies and gentlemen, now introducing the most alpha man you've ever met on the Down to Get Weird podcast. He's conquered Spain 3 times. He once ate an entire alligator alive. And now he runs a small book club in the suburbs of Omaha, Nebraska. His name, Matt Lena.
And that was the best intro we've had on the podcast. Welcome to the Down to Get Weird podcast.
I don't know if that's like not only the best intro, but I just might be the best guest of the Down to Get Weird podcast.
That is up for debate, but we can we'll let the viewers decide.
Hey, I'm not saying anything, but I'm just saying, bro.
Okay. Well, you look homeless. Technically,
this is not a homeless look.
You are homeless.
This is style.
This is my new guest. My guest, Matthew Lena. I'll give him a little clap. Matt Lena.
You're welcome.
Was in Asia with me for 8 months. 8 months I was there.
7-ish, 8.
7,
the whole
8.
time you were there.
Yeah. Yeah. Met him in college. Wrestled together, and then I don't know.
He transferred.
Well, you just got back. So, Matt, Lena, you were in Asia for 14 months?
15
months?
Mm-hmm.
You ended in Indonesia. So, we split apart in the Philippines. I went home. I went to Taiwan. You went to Indonesia.
Well, we did
Philippines was last place.
Philippines, and then you left.
I went to Taiwan, and you went to
I think
Indonesia.
we went to Vietnam, didn't I? Or no, we went to Indonesia for a month. No, Indonesia for a month. Vietnam for 2 months.
Where'd you go into Vietnam?
Because remember me and Jake and I.
Where'd you go? Again?
Mm-hmm.
You taught for the same
Yeah, we taught
time?
for 2 months. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we were there in Saigon for 2 months. Then he went to Australia. Or no, he went home, and then And then I went from Vietnam to Indonesia, and I was in Indonesia for like 4.5 months.
So. Okay, here's my number one question. I thought you were going to go to jail in Indonesia because I was like, I don't think Lena knows you can't just stay in a country for like a certain amount of time.
No. So I have.
How did you do the visa thing?
So it's the same.
How long do you get on arrival? A month?
You get 30 days. But then, so I worked with the dive shop that I was going to work with, and they helped me get what's called a socio-cultural visa, which gives you 6 months. So basically, you get 60 days, and then after 60 days, $50. So I just sent my passport in because I'm going back to Indonesia. So I just sent my passport into the Chicago consulate, and then they'll issue the same thing. But I did it when I was living in Vietnam at the time and processed it at the embassy there.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so you get 60 days on arrival, and then every month after that, you give it basically to an agent, and they stamp your passport leaving and
nice.
entering.
And so
the country.
Did you do that in Nusa Penida?
No, you can't do it in Indonesia. So you have to leave the country, and then you can.
So where would you go? Every 30 days?
No, I didn't know. To get the visa, you can't be in Indonesia. You have to leave the country, get the visa, and then come back in.
Oh, okay.
And they have single multi-entry, so. Visas are I think the most complex thing about traveling.
It makes sense though.
Like when we had to burn the flight in Sri Lanka.
Oh, in India.
To India, yeah.
Yeah, so we were in Sri Lanka trying to go to India.
We were flying to Goa.
So this was what was weird about that is we were trying to get it, and we had 4 days till the flight, and it was 4 days out. So the processing time. For under 4 days, it was gonna be $350, and we're like, okay, well, we're not gonna pay that. And so I messaged him. I was like, hey, we're gonna leave in 4 days. Can we just get this now and also for the cheaper price? And the cheaper price was still $200, and I'm like, $200 for a visa to India? And then they're like, yeah. And so I called them, or I messaged them, and then they're like, oh well, I was like, I heard you can get them cheaper,
And the flight was $120.
Yeah.
The flight was cheap.
Yeah, and I'm like, and so I remember just asking them, and then I was like, that's too expensive. We're not gonna go. If it's actually gonna be that much, and they're like, well, that's the price. And I was like, okay, well, then we're just not going to go. And then they're like, oh, well, I guess I can do it for cheaper. And I'm like, what?
Like, I don't know. I just think
That's pretty sketchy.
yeah, like why would something now like a visa with a consulate be now?
Yeah, and then they literally just
Negotiable.
talked it like, I was like, well, I mean, no. I was like, wait, so can it be cheaper? I was like, I don't know if we're going to go. Like, this is a pretty weird process. And they literally messaged me back, and they're like, okay, well, it'll like be even cheaper than that. And they said it was like $90. And I'm like, well, we already bought flights to another country, so we're not going to do this, but this is still real sketch. I don't know, real weird.
Asia's an interesting.
Yeah. India's interesting as well. So I've never been, thanks to the visa. But so what did you do in Indonesia? Give me what did you do the first month?
So the reason, and this I still don't really know. I'm not what you would call good at planning or understanding.
I mean, I was with you
How
for 8 months. I kind of got that.
I'm kind of a
I'm
winger.
gonna grab water. You keep talking.
So I got to Vietnam, and I was kind of thinking, like, what's the next move for me after Vietnam? And so after arriving to Vietnam, started doing some teaching, which is kind of a common thing, especially for Westerners. But then after I was teaching, I was like, okay, what's next? Like, I'm only going to be here for 2 months. I don't know what I'm going to do. And so decided to do my dive master because I dove in Indonesia when we split with good old Bottom Gag, and then him and I dove together a little bit, and then
in Indonesia.
because
I forgot you saw
him
in
and then
Indonesia.
Jake was also in Indonesia, and so I spent 4 weeks in Indonesia, and then I left to go back to Vietnam with Jake. So then I was like, well, maybe I'll go do my dive master. Like, I really like diving there. Then I turned out basically got an offer, like not like an acceptance to say like, hey, come do your dive master with us, because you pay for your dive master. So, and I was actually looking at doing it in Thailand, which is kind of why, because I want to get into underwater
In
photography.
Koh Tao?
But yeah,
Isn't
no,
that the cheapest place to do it?
Koh
supposedly?
Phi Phi.
Oh, really?
But yeah, Koh Tao is like really actually bad diving. Like it's good diving, but it's not you're not going to become a good diver. I'm probably offending a ton of the dive community by saying this, but if you come from Koh Tao, you might as well say like you're a Lincoln East wrestler, because it's just like basically means
That is
you're
so insulting. But
bottom of the barrel.
I think
That's
our
the
state championship trophies. We've
bottom
got
of the
runner up a few
barrel.
years, but
But
literally
Koh
means
Ta-
we're top two.
Koh Tao is like kind of that's like the farm. That's a factory. So like if I hear that you're from Koh Tao and you like did your DM there, I don't trust you as a diver.
Okay, all right. So did you? How much is a dive master, or did you do photography for
It
it?
was like $1,000, but
Oh, and you paid for it.
yeah. Like, and I helped with some media stuff. Like,
Is that cheaper than in Koh Tao, or is that? expensive?
it's probably a little bit, I would say, cheaper. I don't know what the cost is in Koh Tao, but the diving quality and just overall like training was way better.
So did you dive every day?
Yeah, every day, 7 days a week. From diving, I probably lost, from the time I was in Vietnam, I was probably like 210. I lost like 15 to 20 pounds for over 4.5 months living in Indonesia.
Is it ever cold?
No.
That's good.
I don't, the last 2 months I didn't wear shoes or a shirt, other than when the owners of the shop
in the
told me.
water.
Oh, the water's cold, yeah.
Dang.
So there's two in it's the Balinese Sea and the Indian Ocean, and they meet in the center. And the Bali Sea is like 27 degrees Celsius. And then the Indian Ocean's like anywhere from 17 to like 23. I've had days so I got in like a motorbike slide out, which is where I got this really cool scar on my hand and my chest and some other spots. But I couldn't dive with a wetsuit. And there were days where it was 17-degree water, and I'm like, this is colder than my body temperature, and I can feel my body shutting down. So you just don't think
So
about
do you have to not do it, or did you just be like, nah,
No,
good for today?
No, you just do it. I'm just like this. I'm like, well, this sucks. I'm going to be
Did
cold.
you have a motorbike in Indonesia?
Yeah, I rented one, just a company from mainland Bali.
How much?
Oh, I paid 800,000 rupiah,
Which is
the equivalent of like $60 a month. something like that. But it's cheaper. So if you do,
$60 a month. That's not bad.
If you go to, because like $1 million is like 70. So, because 14.1 is the normal exchange rate. But I would say if you live in Penita or you're going to Penita and you want to stay.
So 13,000 is $1.
No, 14.
Well, it's 13.7.
Are you using XE?
Yeah, some currency. 13. I mean, it fluctuates every day.
Yeah, I mean it's and normally like 14 is a good exchange rate. Is normally what I say. But so basically like $60 a month. But if you're living in Penita and you want to stay long term, I would recommend renting a motorbike from Bali because it's the same concept as like Hawaii. Like everything's more expensive because you got to ship it in. So like you rent a motorbike from Penita in Penita, you're gonna pay more.
So can you just rent it in Bali and then bring it over?
Yeah, you gotta like get on a ferry or like some big barge.
Do you have to like take it back each month?
No. So I have a guy that his dad lives in Penita.
You got a guy?
And
you got a bike guy?
I got a bike guy. And
I need an Indonesian bike guy.
His dad lives in Penita, and so his dad would come by once a month and I pay him. So.
That's nice.
But it's nice. It was it's weird living on a beach. Like I've never.
Were you in a hostel?
No, I had like a hut. It was like a.
Was
like
that
a shed.
provided by the dive school?
No, I had to pay for it.
How much was that?
Like $150 a month.
What'd you have? You got any pictures of it?
I do. That's on my phone though. Imagine here's what I would say. Imagine like a normal size shed, like an American.
Yeah.
You're married. You have 3 kids and a Labrador. You're in your second home. It's not your first home. It's not one of the start homes. It's like a second home, and it's got a proper yard. Because of the proper yard, you now have a shed.
Oh, gotcha.
So
it's one of those.
It's one of those. It's like a
so
proper
it's just
shed,
a bed,
basically. And there was a toilet, and I showered with ocean water.
So the shower was ocean water.
Yeah.
And
I don't know how. Yeah, I think they just. I don't know how you.
Interesting.
But it was very, very livable and good Wi-Fi, which was the other thing that killed me. My first place.
Oh wait, it was good Wi-Fi or bad Wi-Fi?
Well, good. I could stream Netflix.
So it was good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Like good enough for what I'm trying to do or need.
So how often would you dive a day?
Twice a day, sometimes 3.
Were you ever like, I really don't want to dive right now?
No.
Really?
It's kind of like FOMO. It's like so
because everyone's doing it at the same time.
Well, and like in all the dive schools all go to the same sites, and like whether you're on different islands like Limbogan or Chenigan, like they all come to the same dive sites. And then someone will see something cool, and then I'll hear about it, and then I get really upset. So like
what?
Like so I
what would they see that's cool?
Example would be I think it was when I got hurt. So I popped like a blood vessel somewhere in my face or something like that because I would dive and I would come back up and my mask would be full of blood. Which if anyone knows this, and you can help me out, I don't know what happened, but I was getting a little nervous.
Scientologist.
I got Tom Cruise just popped in my head. I would come up from dives and I would just like literally just half my mask would be blood. And
so does it act like?
Because I think so. My
would
sinus,
you be bleeding?
My sinus, something like.
Would you be bleeding out of your nose?
Yeah, while I'm underwater, and then so I was like, all right, I need to take some days off, and like those like 3 days off, there were reported sightings of a whale shark that was like 7 meters, and then there was a great white.
Huh.
And
that would be scary.
Yeah, and it was like 4.5 meters. I'll send you the video. Sick. I was so mad. I was like, of course they would see that on the
Where
video.
is the video? Who has it?
It's on my phone.
Dude, airdrop it to me right now. What we doing, huh? I want to see this.
Yeah, you look at its tail and you ever just like, so this, it happens a lot in diving. I say this a lot. You see something and you go like this. I'm a bitch. It's like when like meeting Brock Lesnar for the first time, like that's got to cross your head at least at a minimum one time where you're like this dude could literally, I think he could snap my arms off.
It's not a good feeling.
And this is one of your like
and
you
so who
see,
took this video?
So this it's a guy named Ollie Underwater. He's a videographer. Really nice. He has an A74.
Dude,
Huge,
that's terrifying
huge
that you
setup.
see a great white.
Yeah, and it's 4.5 meters. You watch the
Are
end
they
of this
supposed
video.
to be in there?
No, and it's like the only great white sighting like ever, like in the last however many years. Like,
What? All right, let's watch this.
yeah, this is at 25 meter, 22 meters, something like that. So it's like 70 feet.
I don't know if it's. Is there audio? Audio. Why would we need audio?
But
What?
yeah, look at this. Look at this. So all these, this is one of the most popular dive sites in
So would a
Indonesia. And
great-
then look, wait, when he goes, he's like 4.5 meters. He turns, you see how thick his tail is, and you go like this. This thing could eat.
So this is where's this at?
Look at that tail.
Jeez.
Oh, it's like girt. It looks like a loaf of bread you buy from Hy-Vee.
Oh.
Like,
Were
and that's
people like terrified?
yeah. Well, so there's like big school. We think because there a lot of tuna come through like in the channel there. So
Yeah.
like big albacore tuna. Like I've seen a tuna like as big as you, and these things like when you're like trying to fight current and like swim, you're like, oh my gosh, this is kind of nerve wracking. You look over and you see a tuna, and he's just or like a barracuda.
Cuda.
And you go, I'm nothing.
Does it get really like sketchy diving?
I've only had one really scary
What happened?
incident. It was with we had two, probably the most experienced group I was with. It was actually with my instructor, who Eric. I'm gonna tell the story. So it was 2 instructors, 2 dive masters, and 2 DMTs, which is dive master trainees. So we're at
You were
this.
a DMT.
I was a DMT. So and I have over probably 100 dives right now at this point.
Yeah.
Not now I have like 200, but then I was like 100.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty comfortable diving. Most of the people in the group have dove in excess of 300 or 400 times.
Yeah.
So we're at this dive site, the one with the great white shark, called Crystal Bay, and this place is known for like really strong currents.
And where
like
do they
Indian
just take you out to sea or
down or like strong currents, like you hold on to something and your bubbles are going down, like.
Yeah.
So it's it can be pretty nerve wracking, especially if you're in a group of
Do
people
people
that
die
are,
often?
Not, I wouldn't say often. I'd say probably while I was there were like 3 deaths, 4 deaths maybe.
And did you dive with those crews ever? Like
No, not where someone died. There was a local who had never dove before, and just picked up a tank and went diving and killed himself.
how?
Didn't know how to like read the gauge or realize how deep he was, and then like ran out of air underwater.
Jeez.
And
All
then,
right, so keep telling this crazy story.
so we're in this popular dive site, and current picks up pretty strong. We've gone around to kind of what we would call, there's an area like called the third corner, and it's pretty exposed, like you're facing the channel, which is where like you'll see big whales and like stuff that just they're cruising. Like it would be like the EAC in Finding Nemo. Like you're in the channel when they're chilling with all the turtles. It's like that.
I've only seen Finding Nemo maybe once.
Well,
So
you know who else said that? You know who else said that?
Who?
Ted Bundy. So
Ted Bundy was for sure dead before Finding Nemo.
So-
came out. And Ted Bundy, kind of a bright guy.
so
I'm a bit of a Bundy guy myself.
we're in like pretty strong current, and we're starting to realize that like this current's not letting up. Meaning like our bubbles like they're not starting to rise. So it doesn't, like if I let go of this rock, I'm not going to go upwards. Which can also be bad because everything you do in diving, you do slow. Like you can't go super fast down, you can't go super fast up, like really slow. So we're trapped in current. We're trying to find a way out, and one of the dive masters has a panic attack, and she starts breathing really heavy. So like
That's not good.
And she's a girl, which normally girls breathe better, just because they're smaller. And so she has to share air with my instructor. So now we have 2 people sharing air. Me, the other DMT,
Is she
and another
out of
instructor.
air?
She's at a point where it's like critical. Like there's a point where you have to share air before you like basically empty your tank.
Yeah.
And so at this point, we're now starting to search for ways out. One of the DMTs, the other DMT, decides to ditch, makes what's called a CESA, or an emergency ascent, and basically says, I'm out, takes off to the surface.
Like just scared.
Yeah, like scared. He was like, I'm scared. You could tell he was uncomfortable, takes off. Me and along with the other instructor, or the other DM, are basically following the instructor who's sharing air and saying, all right, what are we doing next? Because I'm trusting you in this situation.
Yeah.
As our air's starting to continually go down and down
Yeah.
and down and down. And so we're at like 20 meters, which is like
60 feet.
Yeah, 60-ish feet. And I'm at my below my reserve. So 50 bar is your reserve. Like, and at that point, that's when normally in a normal dive, we would say this. Okay. Like, and normally at this time, 50 bar, I'm around 12 meters. So I'm like, okay, we'll keep working our way up. Like, it's time, we're going to go up. You don't normally ever come back with much less than 50. So I'm at 50 and we're at 20 meters and there's no sign of like going upwards. So another like 5 to 10 minutes pass by and I can tell I'm starting to get really uncomfortable because I'm like, now I'm at like 30 bar.
And you're just staying in the same place?
We're slowly kind of moving. We're kind of like trying to traverse because it's like it'd be like moving through a field, but you're like underwater. You're trying to like climb on rocks and do what you can because you got to get away from the current.
Are you trying to go up?
Yes. If possible. But you can't, like if it's an up current, you don't want to get caught in an up current.
What would have happened if you would have like got caught in that?
Like an up current? Or, well, this was just a down current. It was kind of coming from everywhere. So in the event of an up current, you wouldn't want to be caught in an up current because you're going to ascend you'll ascend too fast and run a higher risk of the bends.
Yeah.
But so eventually the other instructor ditches as well. And so
they're just going up.
Yeah, they're like basically no longer taking care of the group. It's kind of everyone's fend for themselves.
So everyone's kind of freaked out.
So yeah, and so it's me, the DMT, with the other DM whose girlfriend is sharing air with my instructor. And now we're at like 15 meters now, hanging onto a rock, and I'm at like less than 30 bar, between 20 and 30 bar. 0 bar is like you
have no air.
You have no air.
Yeah.
So like I look at him and I finally tell him, I'm like, this is a sign for abort, like make an X with your arms, and I'm like, we need to get out of this situation now. Like, and you can't say that because you can't say that underwater, but with my eyes, I was like, I've never been this low. This is not a good thing. Like, I'm not comfortable here. And we're still at 12 meters. So like
20, what did that be?
That'd be like 45, 50 feet. Because it's a little over, a meter's a little over 3, it's like 3.2 feet. If only there was a way we could
internet. Let's
calculate it.
Let's go. 39 feet.
39 feet. So like he finally pulls off, gets what's called an SMB or surface marker buoy. It marks your position underwater so like boats don't run you over, which they still do.
How do you do that?
With air or with
and you just end up
or bubbles from your exhaust, like to save air you would catch, because as you exhale your bubbles go up, so you just catch the air and send it up. So we get it up and I'm looking at my tank and at this point he's done sharing air, because I'm assuming that he is either out or enough out where he can tell that he's about to be out, because he has what's called a balanced first stage, and you won't be able to tell that it's getting less air. You can only see your gauge. So he's like, you could be in the middle of a full breath and go, whereas like my regulator is a unbalanced. So as less air comes, or as less air is in the tank, I can feel that I'm getting less air. Like where his it puts the same amount no matter what until it's gone.
Is that better or worse?
They say it's better. Okay. I think I prefer the other. I mean, they're nice, but it's probably better. There's probably other I don't know enough about first stages other than I know the differences between a balanced and an unbalanced. But so then we're starting to climb his rope that's attached to his SMB at the surface.
So is an SMB really big?
No, it's like a windsock. You know, like basically like the same as your soccer scarves. Like that. Yeah. Like literally, if you take one of those soccer scarves and inflate it, that's what it looks like. Oh. It's like a big sausage.
So it probably took quite a bit of air to put that up there.
Like a little bit. Like I mean, I can't remember if he used his exhaust or how he did it, but he got, and it probably, I don't even know if it was full. Like.
And so that's like, if you're pulling up, it's not going to be coming down.
No, it is. Like we've had situations where we were at 5 meters with an SMB attached to your BCD, which is like your jacket. Yeah. And we've hit down current that takes you from 5 to 20 meters. and so you're attached, and it just pulls under the surface because it's so strong.
Jeez.
Like, the ocean is a scary. Like,
yeah.
I have so much more respect for the ocean now
What's
because
it called?
of
An SMB? What does it mean?
surface marker buoy.
Surface marker. Okay.
So, and it just says like divers below, or like it's normally a bright color, like.
Okay. I see it.
But so we're climbing this string, and he spits his regulator out and grabs my octopus, which is your secondary regulator, like if you have to share air, off of my regulator and starts breathing from it. And I'm at this point, we're like 6 meters underwater, and I'm looking at my gauge.
How fast can you ascend?
18. Oh gosh, this is gonna be bad. I believe it's 18 meters per second max, or per minute max. It's either 9 or 18. I think it's 18. So you can
18 meters a second?
No, 18 meters per minute.
Oh, okay.
Let me wait. Let me think about that. No, it's 9 meters per minute.
That seems about more right.
9 meters per minute is the fastest ascent rate. I don't know why 18's in my head. But or the rate of your slowest bubble. So your smallest bubble, like that comes out of your regulator, you would follow that if your computer, because you have dive computers, like if your computer died. So we're at this point though, we're kind of in the fuck it mode, like because he's sharing air with me. The girlfriend DM and her boyfriend DM are sharing air on the other side of this SMB, and we're not even reeling things, that we're just pulling the line, because I'm looking at my gauge and I'm less than 10 bar. So I'm watching my like needle.
So what at 10 bar, how much time you usually have if it's just you?
Less than 10 minutes, like minutes, like I don't know, like 3 or 4 minutes.
And where are you?
And now we're in a panicked state, and I am sharing air with my instructor, and we're trying to pull this string.
And so he's out of there.
I think so. He spit his reg out,
or he's very close to being out of
yeah.
air, because you don't want to probably fully run out of air.
No,
and
that's
still have it in your mouth. Because then you're like.
Yeah, you just don't want to spit the regulator out like normally. In that, other than depending on your like an emergency ascent, there's different techniques to that. But basically, I thought I was gonna run out of air, so like we were breathing, and I'm just holding my gauge as we're like all kicking, which is not good. But we're at the point where it's like, well, I'm either gonna die here and that, like, we end up making it to the surface. The DMT that freaked out, we took him back to the harbor, and he didn't dive the second dive because he was so shaken up. I dove. My instructor didn't dive.
So when you go dive, do you like get back on board, change out gear, and just chill, and then you're gonna go dive again?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So in between dives, while we're doing, because you have to do what's called a surface interval, like to get the residual nitrogen out of your body.
What's that?
Because you're breathing
You just fart a lot.
Nitrogen oxygen blend, and you're taking in more oxygen than you normally would, and you're at depth, so you're breathing compressed air that's expanding your lungs. Yeah. So like you're exposing yourself to more nitrogen, and nitrogen like is a.
So what are you doing while you're doing this thing?
You're just chilling. Normally you're just chilling. Like
you're hanging out.
Because breathing surface air, you're not breathing as much nitrogen, and that helps clear the nitrogen in your body.
Gotcha.
Like so to prevent the bends, to where you'd have to go to like a recompression chamber, which is like tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. If you get the bends, you have to go to a recompression chamber, or
if
you just like tough, like is there such thing as toughing it out? No.
You have to go back until the bubble.
You got to go back down.
No, but so they do it without, you go into this chamber, and they basically take you back to where that nitrogen bubble can get small enough, right? Because air expands.
Yeah.
So they pressurize a chamber that allows you to go in and take that nitrogen bubble and make it small enough to where it then, as you're breathing, will push out through your system, and then they slowly bring you back to sea level. So it could take hours. Like, you just never know. Like sometimes.
Wait, are you in water if you're in a decompression chamber?
No.
You're just like chilling.
Yeah, it reminds me of like.
Did you bring like an Xbox in there?
No, I don't think. Well, I don't think it could handle it. I don't know. Like, you're pressurizing the air around you.
So like, yeah, I know, but like.
So I would think it would like mess up electrical components.
Like if you had like a bag of chips, would it like smash them?
I think so. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Like,
Well,
I've never
well,
been.
when you go up in the mountains, if you have like buy a bag of chips, like at sea level, and you go up into the mountains, the bag of
it'll
chips is like expanded.
Yeah, and it'll pop.
Yeah.
So I would maybe the other way. I would assume, and because it's greater, the pressure 10 meters underwater or 33 feet or whatever it is the same amount of pressure differential as Earth. So Earth to 10 meters is the same as Earth to a mile above the Earth's surface. So like going up, that pressure differential is the same as 10 meters
Isn't
going
that weird?
down.
I hate going like 12 feet into water. My ears start hurting. I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah, and I've been deep. I've been deep, bro.
I bet.
I'm not saying I found Bigfoot's bones, but
I hope Bigfoot
that's what
can
that's
swim.
my dying question.
I hope
you know,
Bigfoot can swim.
because here's the thing. So I listened to the Joe Rogan podcast the other day with the guy who was on Life Below Zero. Have you seen that?
Yeah. That was a good one.
What's his name? Glenn Villeneuve or something like that. He's a dude.
Villeneuve or something.
He lives in
Oh,
Alaska.
hello.
And like just lives like in the bush, like out by himself.
I've seen it. I listened to the same podcast.
And so he started talking about Bigfoot, and the first thing that popped in my head was conspiracy theorist Drew.
He's not
like,
a believer.
Yeah, he's not. And here's the thing. And here's what I was starting to get on the Bigfoot train. Like I was like, okay, maybe Drew's got something to this. Like no one, how do you get a guy like, what's his name? Who's the guy that does the Into the Wild show?
He does Survivor Man, and that is Les Stroud.
Les Stroud, yeah, Les Stroud. Like you're like
the fact that Les Stroud believes,
and he's doing a show now. He's got his own Bigfoot show.
Yeah, which is kind of weird, but
and that's what I'm like. He's losing people. I don't. And Rogan said it too. I'm like,
yeah, man. But I think Joe Rogan just says that because he's like, if you say, you're not gonna look dumb by say like making fun of Bigfoot people.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like no one's gonna, but you're gonna come off.
But if you go the opposite way,
yeah, you can lose people. He's like,
that's
because like when there's somebody like when Les Stroud was on there, he was like all about it, and then as soon as Les Stroud like did Survivor Man Bigfoot, he's like,
yeah,
it's all crap. I'm like, why? Why did like, I don't know.
So here's my thing.
The to do is to say, Bigfoot. There's no way it exists.
I was starting to agree. I'm like, okay, no one's seen one, but maybe they're like some elusive, night creature thing.
Yeah.
Right? And no one, it's the same as the pterodactyl thing. I forget what book that's called.
Pterodactyl.
When that scientist wrote, what's it called?
No, that's not a pterodactyl. That would be what we like to call a living dinosaur.
That's I
still Mbembe, a dinosaur in the Congo jungle. It's like a plesiosaur that still lives.
And I need to listen or read that book, but he said this.
Never heard of it? Right there, bro.
Joe.
That's what they say.
They drew that. That's the picture that
was drawn.
That's a long neck.
It's a plesiosaur. Mokele Mbembe is what my cat's name
of the Congo.
Moki.
Yeah,
Moki. Her real name, her legal name was Mokele Mbembe. Hey, here's what's sick.
You're dead, fat cat.
Hey. Oh, my baby. Oh, I miss my kitty. Dude, check this one out.
But what I'm saying is, Glenn said this. Glenn's been living in the Alaskan bush for like years, and he's never seen a trace. And now I hear the stories, and I'm like, yeah, like it's hard to make that up. And a lot of people may or may not make stuff up. But what I'm saying is what he said. No one's found anything ever. Like no bones.
Okay.
No, like, and I'm like, I mean, there's some truth in that. And after listening to that, it made me swing back a little bit more to the non.
But you don't find
Bigfoot.
Bear bones unless you shoot the bear yourself. Like,
I don't know. I don't know enough about hunting or bears.
Well, I don't either. But I've heard that from people. Are like, well, yeah, we know brown bears exist, and we don't ever find them. You'll never find their bones in the wild. Unless you just shoot them and wait for their corpse to decompose, and you're right by it.
I'm like, here's what I'd say. I'm 60-40. No Bigfoot. That's where I'm at. 60-40.
I just think a guy like Les Stroud and like all these other people who aren't lying and they've proven they're not lying.
Because why? What would you?
I mean, they brought in, and I like to bring this up. They bring in like people whose job is to be able to tell if people are lying when they're being interviewed. They're like, all right, well, now I'm pissed. And those people are like, okay, by watching this person tell the story, they're not lying. Now, did they see Bigfoot? I don't know, but they believe they did. And then it's like those people, and like a lot of those people are like, I've lived in these woods my whole life. I thought it was a joke. I made fun of people who said they saw it, and then I saw it. And it's like, I 100% know that that's not a bear. Like, it wasn't, it's nothing that's ever been found.
What if?
So I'm like, well, that person's not lying, and I believe them.
Do you think, like, Bigfoot is out there at some point? Like, I don't know if he has the ability to use technology. I don't know if he has opposable thumbs, but he, like, goes to find podcasts or people like this that are like, oh, I don't believe it. And he's like, you know what?
I'm gonna show myself.
I'm gonna show myself, and I'm gonna. He's like the flasher in the office, but he only exposes himself to people who don't believe.
Well, I pulled this up right over here. Check this out. This is what we would call the batoot toot. Okay. All right. This is the batoot toot, and
looks like you when you were born.
It is this.
It's so hairy.
Is the Vietnamese essentially rock ape? So. Where was this? Like in the north? So during the Vietnam War, U.S. soldiers had to go into these very rural places where really no one lives. There's maybe there's a village or something. Like, we couldn't get there. You can't get there by car. You can't, you can't find these. And so they're like, well, the soldiers would come back and be like, so we had this encounter with this thing that was throwing rocks at us. And, like, they were in firefights, and the North Vietnamese soldiers were, like, terrified of this thing until they heard about it. Or they would encounter it, too, and they knew about it, and they were terrified of it. And they talked to the villagers, and the villagers were like, yeah, that's the batoot toot. And so then the U.S. soldiers would go back, and they would be like, this is what happened. We ran into these things, big apes.
Were they able to stay straight-faced when they said, we ran into a...
Batoot Toot. So I'm gonna name my next cat Batoot Toot. And
then who comes up with
the
this?
nickname is gonna be Batoodles.
You can't have a cat.
I know. I'm a bad person.
Yeah.
I can't be around. So this is the Batoot Toot. The Vietnamese, they call it the rock ape because we just throw rocks at them. But there was a lot of soldiers that gave statements on this, and there was just a video I saw on it.
It would be like, it's like a
I'll send you the video. I'll put the link to this video in the description. It's an infographics episode talking about the Batoot Toot. And it's a cool name too.
Oh no, it's got look at those neon, like, glow in the dark things. The cameras where it's like, you ever see that South Park episode where they make fun of people like that? They talk about ghosts, and they're like, they have like those type of cameras where it's like the night vision cameras. Yeah. And there's like South Park episode making fun of people like that. It's really funny. You should check it out. I haven't seen it. I'm not
I'm not a big South Park guy.
He's like, there's ghosts running down my, and he's like peeing himself. It's really funny. Yeah.
Bigfoot Wiki. Good old Batoot Toot. They found castings of it.
Here's what.
They found castings.
I will say this.
And
I've seen.
Cannot be.
What I can tell you,
they can be faked, but not all of them are fake.
One of the weirdest things about the ocean is, like, what we know, like 2% of the ocean.
Yeah, that's why I don't do that.
That's why I'm like this. Like, the reason that I'm 40%, like, at some point I could be swayed to believe that Bigfoot is a real thing, is that I've been in the ocean and I've seen things, and all that. The only thing that comes to my head is this: what are you? I'm like this. I've never seen you. Like the other day, like 3 months ago, I was diving, and I saw similar to that of like a. Have you seen the movie How to Train Your Dragon?
No.
Dude, you need to watch more movies.
Not 5.
Watch more movies. Hey, niece and nephew, and you. I have them, and you have them. And your niece and nephew would appreciate.
Yeah, we watched the Lorax and Shrek.
Hey, which is a good movie. You're still not gonna get that Lorax tattoo, but so then.
Look good.
It's like an underwater dragon. It looks like this thing that's just cruising. And I go, no one's going to believe that I saw this. So luckily I had a GoPro and I was filming. And I go, I don't know what I just saw. And it was called a flying Gnard. If you Google image search flying. I think it's Gnaard or something like that.
Flying
Gnard.
Gnaard.
Yep. It looks like a dragon. Look at this thing. It's a and it spreads its wings, and it looks like
what?
Yeah. Now it's not very big. It's like the size of a frisbee, but I've never.
Dang.
It's like just it looks like a baby dragon just cruising.
Are there sea snakes?
Yeah, banded coral snakes, and they'll kill you.
What are they?
Banded coral snake.
Oh no! You know what? We were when we were in Philippines on Malapascua.
When I went diving.
You went diving, and I went and did that little like tour thing. We were like snorkeling, and we were on this island. They're like, oh, there's snakes over there. Like, you can go there, but people saw snakes yesterday.
Isn't that like one of your fears?
Yeah, snakes and water. It's horrible.
Is that because Jordan Peterson talked about the theory of humans being against snakes?
Yeah,
like, 'cause of
probably.
the
No, I've
origin
just
story?
never liked snakes, but I think that's banded coral.
Coral, not crowel.
Oh, well,
Well,
I can't
look,
see.
that's
It's far away.
That's that
You're
Lincoln.
seven. One
That's
of
that
these?
Lincoln education.
Yeah, I think it was something like this.
It looks like that right there.
Right here?
Branded Malayan coral snake right there. Yeah.
Oh,
Those like black. It's black and white, and they're striped, and
Hails, nah.
they get. Oh, I saw.
I would absolutely freak
I've
if
seen
I saw
one-
one of those.
Seen one. The
And
thickness.
they'll come up and bite you.
Yeah,
in
they
the
don't. I mean, they
water?
don't really mess with you. Most stuff doesn't mess with you. Triggerfish. I've been attacked by triggerfish. They're very territorial.
It's trigger, but
It's because it looks like, imagine a fish that looks like tomato. Do you? Well, I'm now making another reference. Cars. Do you know the movie Cars? Pixar animation.
yeah, I saw
Lightning
that
McQueen.
one.
So the tow truck that
Is
is.
this a triggerfish?
It's the yes. So the one right, the third one in. The Titan triggerfish. This thing, they get really beefy. I've seen a big ones, like the size of your torso. And so what he does, if you look at, it's hard to see, but he's got these like big pursy lips, like Kim Kardashian. And then you take tomato from Cars the movie, his
Yeah.
teeth, like
Yeah.
who's the comedian?
Tomater.
What's the comedian's name? Larry the Cable Guy.
Larry Cable Guy.
Yeah, tomater.
Yeah, tomater.
Those teeth are like, that's what, and so
will they bite you?
so they have a nest and it looks like a cone. So it's not just like, oh, this piece of coral
Yeah.
like an anemone or like with a
Yeah.
clownfish. And so you swim into their nest, and most people, like, your instant reaction is like, oh, I'll swim away, so I swim up. And that doesn't do anything, and they'll keep attacking you because their nest is a cone. So you have to swim out of their nest, like you can't swim up. So like normally I have like a tank banger, like to make noise underwater, like get someone's attention, because
Yeah.
I can't be like, hey.
I
Look
I
over
heard when we were snorkeling in Belize this summer, I heard this. You can hear really loud underwater. So they were doing this when we were snorkeling.
And that's if you have like,
And I
'cause
had a
sounds-
life jacket because I don't swim.
Yeah, you can't swim. If like, you know how one of the easiest ways for me to like end your life, like if I had to, I would just fill this entire room with water and you'd be done.
I would freak.
What is it? So tell me, I want to
almost
know.
drowned in Indonesia
I want to understand,
like 3 years ago. 4 years ago.
why are you afraid of the ocean? What is the?
We don't know what's in there. It just I'm in their domain. I don't know
Is it 'cause
anything
you-
about it. I also don't know I don't understand the ocean. Like, I don't understand currents. I don't
Oh,
understand.
it's crazy.
They're like, oh yeah, there's a current underwater. I'm like, what? Like wind?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, there's no wind underwater.
I mean, that would be my
No,
equivalent.
and so then when I was on that that Philippines tour in Malapascua, there was a super strong current. Like right when you jump in, it would just start taking you, but you can swim out of it pretty easy.
Oh, yeah,
But I literally was like, I just had to like
and you can't
just
swim.
swim super hard to get through it. And I was just like, what if I didn't make it? Like, I would have to start way up where the boat was, and then I would just like try to swim across as I'm getting shoved down. And I'm like, if I missed the boat, there was one time where I just grabbed the back end of it. I was like, I don't know what would have happened.
You go to Australia
Well, I'd be
They
dead.
never-
I just drown.
and never find your body.
I don't understand. I'm not well versed in ocean and currents. And
The ocean can be scary.
like surfing, I'm like, I literally just went. I'm like the guy who just okay, I know how to snowboard, I know how to skateboard, I know how to wake skate, I know how to wakeboard, like I know how to do all that stuff. So I'm like, surfing, same thing. Like I get it. I literally caught my first wave I ever tried. I'm like, oh, it's easy, and then you fall, and then you get destroyed by these waves, and I'm like, what the? I don't know what's going on. Don't know which way's up. Like when they say you don't know which way's up, I'm like, oh, it's gotta be easy. I'm like, nope.
It's weird.
When you're just spinning, I'm like,
yeah.
That's why I almost drowned in Indonesia, and I have not surfed since. I would surf, I just haven't.
Which,
I just need to learn more about it. So I should probably like do a dive class or something. It's like the airplane thing. Like I'm scared to fly, so I want to learn. I want to get my pilot's license.
I mean, I'm definitely a face your fears guy. Like,
yeah,
you gotta
I'll just do it a lot, which is why I'm not against doing it. I haven't been in this situation.
So two things about swimming. One, I recently swam a mile. I didn't realize how far a mile was swimming, but it took me an hour. But then, because I'm like secretly, if I were to not be traveling again, then I was secretly training for a triathlon. Well, also what I like to call #zombie preparation.
Why would you train? Why?
But because I don't want to get eaten.
Hey, you know what we need to do
zombies.
is we need to plan something like extreme. Some like we're gonna bike across Australia or something, like bicycle.
Yeah, I think people have done that.
Well, I know, but like that would be more interesting.
And vlog the whole journey.
Joe Rogan just had a guy on who walked the Yangtze River, the entire thing. First person to ever do it. It's the biggest. Who's the guy? Biggest river in the world, and it's in China, and it starts in Tibet. Like the source of it starts in Tibet.
Who was the guy? What was his name?
I'll have to look it up, but.
Because the last one, he had him on again. Remember the guy who walked? He was the first man to walk across Antarctica with no replenishments. Yeah,
that guy's cool. His name is Ash Dykes. Here, Ash Dykes. Podcast 1410. It's really good because he also did he does all these extreme. He's from Wales. He does all these extreme like travel things. He used to just. I mean, he might be a little younger than us. Maybe he's your age. But he used to just, like, was backpacking Asia. Just, like, literally doing the same stuff. Just backpacking, hanging out. And then he's like, let's do something, like, kind of crazy. And so then he went to Mongolia and walked across Mongolia with, like, he carried, like, I don't know, like a rickshaw all the way across Mongolia, and he just slept out in the desert.
What?
And there was like wolves and stuff. Like he has like some crazy stories. He's like, I just thought I'd do it.
You know what I haven't listened to in forever?
And now he does it.
Is that podcast we got that recommendation for? Tales of the Wild Ones.
Yeah.
Like that dude. I bet this.
Did you listen to the India one?
Oh yeah. Oh.
If you guys want to, well, I actually don't even know if I'd recommend it. If you have somewhat traveled, you should listen to this podcast. Yeah. If you have not traveled, I would say, if you have not traveled outside the U.S., I would say do not listen to it.
Don't listen to this.
Don't listen to
this one. This podcast.
This one's terrifying.
It's like the basis of the podcast is it's like people who travel a bunch and their wildest stories, which actually I was going to get into to ask you. But regarding like, because someone asked me the other day, they said like, did you like? Because people always ask like, are you afraid? Like, do you? Like, did someone, like, do people rob you like that? And I'm like, no. Like, I've gotten
pickpocketed, but nothing violent.
Yeah, it's never been, like, where I felt super uncomfortable.
I did in Brazil. But
I think South America, that's why I want to go to South America.
But also it was my first time to Brazil. I bet if I went back, and it was during the World Cup, so. I
think it's different for everyone. Like there are people that say this is bad or that is bad, and like, but then there are people that go and don't say anything. You know, like because a lot of like people I meet that travel that are girls, they're always like, I don't want to go to India or like I don't want to go to like the Middle East, like places where they're more violent towards women, and it's like, I mean, I get that. Like,
I get like you do need to be more careful. I would say you can't go off the beaten path too much. Probably, I mean, I don't know. My recommendation would be don't go off the beaten path too much in India if you're a girl and you're blonde.
Yeah. Especially after listening to that podcast.
Yeah, especially after listening to that podcast.
Don't listen to the podcast.
I'll link that I'll link it below in the YouTube. And I'll just link it below.
Because that is
something.
That's a brutal.
Awesome story, but it's
scary.
I was like, my
I was getting
heart was
goosebumps.
pumping. Yeah.
I don't get nervous a lot.
It was really cool. So I was all about, but that's such a cool story to tell. Like, if you can survive something like that, it's just such a it's a great. It's life. It's a lot of life experience, but then you also have like an insane story. Like, I wish I had more crazy stories to tell, I guess.
Well, and that's what, like, I just feel like, and maybe it's just my naiveness.
Yeah.
That, like, people are like, oh, that's so crazy. Like, what happened? And I'm like, I just went out in Vietnam and, like, had drinks at a bar. Like, whoa. Like, and I'm like, what? Like, but it's all relative, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, someone's perception, I don't know. Just to me, they're like, I could never do what you do. I'm like, well, what is it that I do that's crazy? They're like, well, you're traveling. I'm like, yeah, but I'm staying in, like, hostels.
I think everyone just can't get past the language barrier, and I'm like, it's really not that hard. You figure it out. It's one of those, you don't know how easy it is till you're in the situation, and then you're just like they know everyone knows what a bus is, or a train, or food. It's not like
or
if
you play
need
charades.
Water, they're gonna have no idea what you mean when you do like the drinking motion.
I will say this. So I speak conversational Indonesian now, I would say. Like, to the point where I can, like, beyond, like, hello, how much?
Give me a little something. Say, like, where the ladies at tonight?
Di mana cewek di sini? Saya tidak lihat cewek ada, which means, like, I don't see any girls. Like, ada means, like, there is. So, like, are there? Like,
now say, where is the nearest gay club? I'm sure you didn't use that one a few times.
I didn't learn gay club in Indonesian. Because I'm not Drew. I don't just go to gay clubs.
Gay club.
Hey, sometimes I get it. You're gay for pay. It's cool.
G for P.
But I will say that learning Indonesian and even Vietnamese, like, I learned a few phrases here and there that as I was, like, going around, like, I could read and a little bit and like understand. It goes so far.
Oh, like, yeah. If you just say a little bit, they'll love it.
And they love it, and they laugh, and, like, in my head, I'm like, you're making fun of me because I speak terrible your language.
They're not. They're
but
excited.
It's just, they think it's like funny or cute, but it's so much more like when I'm in Indonesia, I can, like, start talking to a guy and, like, quickly be like, hey, I get seasick. Like, can I sit up with the captain?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And where everyone else sits, I say it in Indonesian.
Yeah.
Where the difference, like, someone could be like, I get sick, and they'll be like, sit in the back. I'm like, I get sick, like, can I sit with you guys? And they're like, oh. And it just, the same thing, like, how much when I pay, like, for, now it's not a ton of difference, and when you're in Indonesia, it's cheap anyways, but I pay, like, what, more so, like, local prices, because I have friends that live on the island I lived on, as well as, like, me being able to speak.
How big is Nusa Penida?
It's actually the biggest, like, one of the biggest compared to, like, there's two other islands that people normally go to.
There's Lombok.
Limbogan, and Chenigan, and they're way smaller than Penida. Penida has a lot of. It actually just got named #1 tourist backpacker spots for 2020, which is
Nusa Penida.
Yeah, it's a good thing and a bad thing.
I know it's close. I mean, I remember how close it was.
Like, it's a bad it's a good thing in that it's promoting Indonesia, it's promoting tourism, but it's a bad thing
it's
because
going to turn into, I mean, you just don't want it to turn into PP.
And now it's going to be PP in Bali. Like, that's what's going to happen. And that's what sucks about, like,
I mean, at least in Bali it's so big that you can get out. I mean, like, you can still find, like, some
digital nomad heaven.
Yeah, which, I mean, for a reason. It's gorgeous and it's cheap, but so,
Wi-Fi.
Penida. Is it Penida?
Nusa Penida.
I know Nusa Penida, but is it Penida Island right here?
Yeah, Penida Island. So Limbogan, Chenigan are the two smaller ones. Penida.
And then this is Lombok, and then where's Komodo?
You gotta keep going. I think it's farther. Yeah.
It's one of these.
Yeah, it's somewhere over there. But Penita, for an island, it's it's bigger than all the Gillies.
So I've been
it's bigger than.
Well, actually, I was never in Lombok because I went to. Did you go to? Oh, you were in Gili T, weren't you?
Yeah. Shot
That's what you did.
that.
So Nusa
Party there.
Lembongan, and that's you were staying on Penita Island though.
Yep.
Where were you staying?
So I lived. If you look see where that little inlet
Here?
at the top left corner. Keep going. Right there. I lived right there. There's a village called Toyapaka. It's a Muslim village.
So they have the call to prayer 5 times a day.
Yep, at 5 a.m. That's me.
It's kind of cool.
I've actually been
like
to,
it.
dude. I've been to 3 mosque ceremonies now because like my local friends
Yeah.
they invite us and it's awesome.
I
Like,
think it sounds so cool. Now
It's-
maybe not at 5 a.m. every day because I remember.
and
sleeping
you sleep
one
through
right
it. You
next to
sleep
it.
through it. Like it's 5, 9, 12, 3, and 7.
I just remember being in Turkey, first country outside the U.S., and we woke up to that. And I was just like, this is, I mean, that was a bit of a culture shock.
Yeah, and that's
As the first place I've been is Turkey. And, I mean, Turkey's not anything crazy, I don't think.
it's cool just from the standpoint of like
it sets the scene.
the people want to like want you to, especially once you become like part of the community, like
Yeah.
people want you to be at stuff. Like my nickname was homeless guy,
Well,
which
that has not changed.
in Indonesian it's a guy's name, but they say kakupet is his name.
Kakupe.
And so I like walked down like on the streets of Penita and I'd shout kakupet.
So where was your hut?
So if you scroll out.
Did you go to that Miami Beach Club? What's it called?
Punch in
Martui Beach Club?
It is.
Did you go hit this place up?
There's no
Maruti Beach Club.
I don't think there's a Maruti. It might be might be Nusa Penida Beach Club. But I
It
live.
says Maruti, bro.
I don't know if you can see You want to punch in Nusa Janung on Google.
I don't know how to say
Penida, Nusa
that.
Janung. I think is Jinung.
There, that
Yep.
bungalow.
Yep, that's me. Toyapaka. Right there. That's where I lived. So see those two the really nice bungalows in the picture?
Yeah.
I was in neither of those. I was in the
Okay, so you see the really
nice.
yeah, like it's
not
got
that.
the
I was
indoor
in the
thing.
shed in the
Yeah,
back.
okay, so right behind that there's a mat
there's literally
on the
a shed.
floor.
If you go behind the shed, that's where I lived.
And so did you walk by this every day?
Yeah, like there's a fridge right under this bungalow, and that's where I made overnight oats.
You kept all your oats?
Yeah.
Oh, did you actually say oats?
Yeah.
I was making fun of you.
Yeah, no, I kept oats because I made
Lena
overnight
eats
oats
only
every
grass, no oats, and like protein bars, and spends like $12 on protein bars.
$3.
I don't have enough
You paid
money to
$9.
get
You paid $9 for a
De
literally
Leon's
what is
burrito with
going
sour
to
cream.
give you cancer.
Well,
You're
that's why I
going
don't
to
work out.
die from
That's why I don't work
colon
out.
cancer.
That's why I don't work out.
That
anymore.
working out would be
No.
that would be productive in your life.
What was it? I was just listening to a Joe Rogan podcast or some podcast. So is this your little area?
Keep going.
Here?
Keep going. Yeah. That way. Let's see here. Oh, stop. Turn left.
Oh.
Go left there. All right, right down that road.
Right down there.
Yep. You got to keep it's like I don't know if you can go in there, but
I don't think I can. Oh. No, I can't.
no. Yeah, it's like so this is there's a
Do you know any of these people on the street? Who's that kid?
I don't this was probably taken in like this is way
this guy?
outdated. This is way outdated.
Who's this guy? All right, never mind.
I'm not going to respond to that.
Okay. Well. All right. What
So-
were we talking about before that?
The different
And so you
islands,
were there for how long?
4.5 months. And
And
it was
did you stay in that bungalow for 4.5 months?
yeah. Shed. You call it a shed.
A shed.
It was a glorified shed, which I'm okay with. Like I lived
I like that.
I
Did it have AC?
No.
How did you survive?
I had a
Because
fan.
you cannot do
I'm not-
anything without AC.
Well, so the nice thing is that at night, Penita actually, and because I've been living in Asia at this point for over a year, that I was pretty well acclimatized to
I mean, we were
warm
like
weather.
6 months in, and you were not very acclimatized.
Yeah, no, but I did another 6 months.
I know, but I guess it just takes maybe some people longer.
And and now I can't handle like this cold in Nebraska. I can't handle it
This
at all.
is terrible.
It's
horrible.
And I'm pretty much always wearing like multiple layers. Like I can't handle it
Here?
here.
Yeah.
Whereas there, I don't wear a shirt, and then at night I wear like a long sleeve just because I get cold on my motorbike. But I was at the point where at night I would get cold, so I would have a fan, and then I had to turn the fan off, or like I would face it.
Did it get chilly there at night?
Chilly. I mean, like 37 degrees. Like it's not like enough that it's like the fan I was fine with, and I just had like a sheet that I slept on.
Of course you did.
Like it didn't. It was very basic.
Were there other people staying there with you?
No. There's just
no.
me.
I mean, like, were there other like people doing their dive masters for 4.5 months?
Yeah, there was 2 DMs that came through, and then actually a good friend of mine now. Her name is Marion. She's from France.
Oh, nice.
But her dad lived in Portland, or was from Portland or something like that. So she's not like the typical French like accent. Like she was pretty standard. Like if she just talked to you, you would maybe guess that there's an accent, but like but she speaks fluent French and like but her and I did the same amount of time to do our dive master, and then there was a couple other dive masters that came through that did it in like a month, which is like super super fast. Like it's hard.
How many dives a day is a month?
60 maybe.
No, how many dives a day is this? Do you do 60 a month? So you do 2 a day? Yeah,
2 a day, basically.
For 30 days.
For 30 days. And then some days off, some days on. It just depends. But yeah, and so then her boyfriend was actually one of the instructors at the shop too. So
cool.
So it was good. Like,
were the instructors Indonesian or were they?
No, all Western. And then we had one dive master that was Indonesian.
How long
he was
have
like
they
a freelancer. His boyfriend or her boyfriend was like a year and a half. He lived there. But you get like
so once you're a dive master, can you then train people?
So I can't train, but I can do what's called a scuba refresh. So like if you were certified and you haven't dove in 6 months and you needed to come through and like you wanted to do a scuba refresh, like you forgot, like if me and you were to wrestle and I would just
no, that wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen.
Destroy you.
Also,
I would pick. I mean, if I had no arms, you might have a chance. But so the basis of like how much you've forgotten in wrestling.
Dude,
imagine that.
I've gotten back into it a little bit. Just a little bit.
That same concept, but with diving. So people dive like once a year, and so they want to do a scuba refresh. Like, hey, make sure I'm not going to die.
How much does a scuba refresh cost?
Like, you get 2 dives with it, but probably be like $100. No.
And then that lets you
like
dive
$80
for longer.
No, it just means like it's like brushing up on your certification. Like you need to like when I have to show you how to do like stance and like what a step and single is, and just like all the basics, like hand fighting.
That
so
I
then
don't need.
So then you can kind of understand like, okay, here's how I set up my tank, here's how I ensure like my equipment works. So you don't get underwater and then you're like this. I ask you how much air you have, and you like look at me like I'm a crazy person, and then I have to grab your gauge.
Scary. I'd be like, yo, I'll scuba dive, but I'm gonna be like 10 feet down the whole time, and just chilling, so then I can like just come back up.
I've gone to 40 meters.
That's so. Does that hurt your ears like really bad?
No, you equalize. Like it just like you just like this. Oh, my ears hurt.
Yeah, but when I go like 12 feet down in a pool, my ears hurt.
Yeah, you have to equalize.
Yeah, but that kind of hurts when I equalize.
Yeah, well, that means you went down too fast. That's what she said.
All right.
Any office, like
all right.
Who cannot? I don't have the ability or the wherewithal to not hear something like that and instantly think Michael Scott and then go, "That's what she said."
Well, hey.
I know I'm not mature.
That happens.
I'm 28 years old and I'm not mature.
Oh, you don't have to be.
Hey,
point.
I want to ask you something.
Okay.
I want to understand.
I'm nervous.
Why do you have a bald spot on your face?
We talked about this like a few podcasts ago.
What is this? I don't know.
So we looked it up, and it's like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. They say it happens. They don't know why it happens, but then it can just be there. It's called alopecia or
would you ever
Terra or something, and then it's like it appears over 2 days from nothing to then just this, and then And then they're like, yeah, it could just go away, or it could be there forever, or it could literally. They're just like, yeah.
Would you ever?
So I got the stuff. I started putting like minoxidil on it.
Would you ever
It's
just
not
shave
helping.
everything? Like
Go
big?
like
No.
everything. Eyebrows.
I have a movie quote from that. But the other guys, have you seen that? With Will Ferrell.
Yeah, it just went on Netflix again. Which
Yeah,
I'm real excited about.
When the guy's sitting there, it's Christina
Yeah.
is trying to get back with Will
I love
Ferrell,
that
and
guy.
he's
He's
sitting
like
there.
You'd
Yeah.
think because
But actually,
shaved.
like, no, I'm saying you bick your head, but then also bick your beard. So like, you're just straight.
I mean,
You're
I could.
You're aerodynamic. Have you thought that?
I have
about?
not had a beard since the World Cup in 2014.
That's what I'm saying. I don't remember the last time. I don't remember the last time I used a razor.
Yeah. Well, I used to use the razor here, and then I get pizza neck, looking like doing my best Jeffrey Epstein impression.
I don't know if you can. Can we say that? Is that too?
We can say that.
Yeah,
we
that's
don't know if
bad.
he killed himself.
Yeah, sure.
Well,
And
we
I
don't-
mean, it's been a month or so, but you can't
It's
make
been
it.
a while.
Don't make a Kobe joke.
I said that to Rutledge, and it got a few laughs.
Okay,
It got a few laughs at
It's
a
good.
wrestling tournament from some of the coaches that overheard it.
It's good. It's
And
good.
so, yeah.
Yeah, we're good. We're
So I get
past
that pizza neck, and I didn't like that, and so I just do the trim. Also, I don't have time, and I just don't care that
I
much.
think the rule is if it's on a Netflix special or somewhere it pops up on YouTube, then it's okay to make fun
Yeah,
of
it's
it.
okay to make fun of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you know this. Not much of a looker in the first place. So like going from like a Lincoln like 3.7 to like a Lincoln 3.4,
That's why
doesn't change.
That's
things
why you
much.
gotta up your fashion game, bro. Look at me. Look at this. You see this?
This
is called style. I'm not saying that I'm the
Did you get
alpha.
another stupid tattoo somewhere?
I'm not saying that I'm an alpha, but I'm an alpha in
Hey,
this
who has
situation.
More? Who has more?
This is how
You
you know.
probably do.
This is how you know someone's
I
traveled.
just lost one at practice the other day.
This is how you know someone
week.
travels if you wear bracelets.
Or they just buy bracelets.
Or they just it could be. I don't know.
I bought one in Belize and it lasted for 3 days.
That's what she said.
Wait, what? That one doesn't even make sense.
Hey, all right. You want to talk? Let's talk wrestling. Let's talk a little wrestling. I like how you
Like
segmented.
What are we
you lost one
talking
at
about
wrestling.
What do you
Here's
want to talk about in wrestling?
here's where I'm at. Burroughs isn't making the 2020 team.
Oh, jeez.
This is not going to be a very popular opinion. I'm just saying.
I think anybody who's listened to this podcast up to this point doesn't care at all about wrestling.
I know that's true. But he's not. I just want everyone to know because I know a lot of wrestlers know myself and Drew.
I'm gonna say he does, but
I don't
we'll
think
see.
he will. I think Dake's on that level, but that's for a different podcast. We'll talk about wrestling one day. I just want we could cover all aspects of wrestling. We'll bring Keenan in or Jeff.
We'll just do it on the Rick the Wrestling Dad podcast, which you should check out. Which
that's
we
true.
haven't done one forever, so
And
because of wrestling season, which is all over in 2 weeks. And then I'm done.
where are you going?
with
Where are you
coaching
going
for
again?
the year.
Tell me where you're going.
So
I know, but they don't know.
flying to Wales flying to London,
The
but then going to
trousers.
Wales. Going to Wales. What?
You got to have your knickers.
Okay, that is.
Do you have trousers?
Okay, what accent are you trying to do?
Pang scran.
Is that you?
Oh,
is that Jake?
this is real pang scran.
It's Pang Scrum, mate.
I'm gonna need you.
That's like neither one of those.
I'm gonna need you to stop talking like that because what the impersonation that I just did sounds exactly like the way you're talking.
No.
Hey, you keep talking to me like that. You keep saying what
You
you're
cut.
saying.
Yeah, I'm not for manners. You'll see what happens.
You keep chomping them clam bits. You see what happens, yeah?
See, you sound more of like a transporter.
Is it more like no? Because then I go Australian. You seems like here. I can say wallaby, and then it's like, two
Did
hops
you go to
and a
Australia at
dingo.
all?
No.
No.
I think I'd like maybe to go to Australia. Like I don't Australia.
Maybe not right now.
Yeah, it's just well,
Not
I
as
mean,
picturesque as it could be.
I mean, yeah, you can't make jokes about the fires. It's still happening. But I'd like to. Like I think I would enjoy me and the the good old mates. The good old peeps. But
Isn't Jake there? Jake's there right now.
yeah, but no, he's in Bali.
Now he's in Bali?
Yeah, he's in Bali. He's meeting up with his future ex-wife, Emily.
Oh, nice.
But
oh yeah.
That's a funny story that we can't tell.
Yeah, we're not gonna tell those stories.
But the problem I have, here's the first thing that pops into my head when I think English accent. I think two things. I think Chris D'Elia making fun of the English guy stand up, and then I think Russell Brand get him to the Greek.
Yeah,
when he's talking, he's like,
watching that the other day.
He's like, "Hey, mum, like, tea and crumpets, mum."
I like his accent the most. Out of
I know he's got a very. It's a nice. Whereas English it just accent. Sometimes though, like I don't care what you say. It's not the Queen's English. Like whatever you're saying, English people out there, change it because it's not.
Change it.
It's not real.
I haven't heard accents since too long. It'll be.
Yeah, how long have you been in the States? What's it like?
Like 8 months.
What does it feel like?
So long.
Is it weird? Like, because to me, I'm still kind of
like. It is weird. Well, it's weird that I'm here, and then like. The weirdest thing is being like, oh, 1 year ago this is what you were doing. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a year ago.
And
so awesome.
Are you like, I'm still this way. I mean, I've only been home for almost 2 months now. But I go to places and I do things and I'm very aware of how things are different than they were in Asia. Like I'm still like a waiter will come up and I go in my head I just mentally counted that's the first time this person's come to the table, and then they leave and then they come back and I go second, third, fourth.
Why do you do that?
Because I'm like in Asia they don't really like, unless you're at a Western restaurant, but like let's say you go to a warung, which is like Indonesian for restaurant, but
yeah,
you're sitting there and it's like a local warung, like, and you order your food, they bring you the food, and then you don't hear from them until you're done.
Yeah.
Like until you but until you leave. Like,
yeah.
Like whereas in America or like the Western world, it's like this. How's your food tasting? Like, here's your food. How's everything going? Can I refill that water for you? Like,
yeah, I hate that.
Like, and then
do you like it or do you dislike it?
I dislike it. Because I've become accustomed to the slower pace. Like,
yeah.
Like when the other day I caught up with Pinky.
Pink?
Yeah, good old Pink. He's engaged now. Do you know that?
I saw that.
Yeah, I met his fiance, real nice gal. And so we're sitting there and like I told him, I go, that lady's been here like 4 times. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, the lady has come back to refill our waters like 4 times. And he's like, why are you counting that? I'm like, dude, it's just they don't do that.
It's kind of a weird thing to count though.
And the same thing she brought is literally I had 3 bites left of my salad because I'm healthy unlike you, and almost eat my 3rd bite. I'm halfway through the 3 bites that I have left, and she is like, "Here's the check, no rush though." And in Indonesia, it's like, I don't know if I've ever heard the word.
You have to like get them to like.
Yeah, you have to be like, "Hey,
I want to leave.
I want to leave. Take my money."
What do you miss the most from Asia?
The warm.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I would say the most. The thing I like the most.
What was your favorite thing besides diving? Okay, answer the first one and then.
In traveling or in like, because here's what I loved about especially in Asia. There's just a lot less. I don't like the word drama, but like there's a lot less. People just care about a lot less. Like it's a lot more like free. Like you're just kind of like, hey man, if you're cool, like awesome. Like we can hang out and like do stuff. But if you're not cool, then like either you become cool to hang out with or like a nice guy or girl or whatever you identify as. And then that's a controversial topic.
Be a nice hear her zim.
But then like people just are more like, yo, I'm doing this thing. Like you can come if you want. If not, that's cool too. Like it's just more like people are just more on their own like terms and like I don't know how to explain it.
I like how time stands still when you're traveling almost. Not it just everything goes so slower where you're like I've been home for as long as I was gone and that I feel like I was gone for 2 years.
Yeah.
In the time that
But see, do you
like
feel
the 8 months that I've been home and the 8 months that I was gone? It was like, oh, being gone, I feel like I did way. I mean, it takes so much longer because I'm like, oh, I have so many memories. Where here, it's like there'll be like 3 days in a row, or there'll be like 2 days in a row where I don't have human contact with anyone. Because I just sit down here and I just edit videos or something, and I'm like, or in the only contact I do have at times is just at wrestling practice.
Do you feel like this was something that my brother told me? I feel like I'm very in my own world. Like where I'm at is where I'm at. Like right now I'm doing this podcast like here, and like I'm in Nebraska, like I'm doing Nebraska things. Like I'm not really thinking about like I'm kind of in my own world. And so when I came back, one of the first things I asked him was, because I think perspective's cool. It's like, so to me, like I was gone 15 months. To me, it did not feel like I was like, oh, I don't know, I've been gone for a while, I guess. Like it's not like I was gone for over a year.
Yeah.
But to them, like to my family, my brother was like, yeah, dude, like I literally haven't seen you in 15 months. And to me, I'm just like, oh, like I didn't even realize, like you didn't even realize.
Yeah.
Like it, even though it's a long time, it doesn't feel like a long time. Like
no, well, yeah, and especially, I totally agree with that. But to me, it feels like it's been forever since I was gone.
Yeah. But then when you're gone, it doesn't feel like you're gone for very long. But then that very long is like 10 months. Like it's.
But I think looking back at it, I'm just like, geez, that was like a year ago. Like oftentimes I'll look back something a year ago and I'm like, oh, I feel like that was yesterday. But when I look back at traveling, I'm like, I remember doing that. I'm like, that was actually a year ago. Like that seems like 3 years ago because like if I see something like right now, we had just been, where were we at? We were in Sri Lanka a year ago right now, I think. And it just seemed like, if I see that, I'm like, dang, that feels like 3 years ago, because after that we went to Vietnam, and then we went to the Philippines, and then, we did all these other things, and it was just like, oh, that seemed like it took forever, I guess. I don't know. And time flies here.
I was going to say, here's also what I think, and I don't know if you agree with this. In the U.S., it hasn't hit me yet. I'm still kind of pretty unaware, but days abroad don't really matter to me. Like whether it's like Tuesday or Saturday, like I'm just like, oh, like every day is the same. Like I do the same things every day, no matter what. And so to me, days, months, weeks don't really matter. I'm just like, oh, it's just another day. Like, and I'm doing what I normally do every day. Like, and maybe some things change, but like I get so caught up in like I'm doing whatever I'm doing, or I'm planning what the next thing is, that I don't think like, oh, like these days or this, like.
Yeah, well, you're also like, and this is super cliche to say, but you're also just in the moment more, in the sense of like, I'm not thinking, I just remember being like, it being December, and I just be like, okay, I just got to make sure, the only thing I got to remember is I got to file my taxes by April 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was it, or 13th or whatever it is. That's the only thing I have to think about. Whereas like here, I'm like, oh, well, I got a thing. When is that? Tomorrow? Okay. And then Thursday I have this, and Friday I have that. And
it's more.
Whereas there, you're just like, you don't even know what day it is. You don't know the date. You don't know.
Especially too, do you feel this way that like when you're traveling by yourself, like versus me and you, or like when I was traveling with Jake or Ethan or whoever, like it, when it's just you, there's no like, oh, I need to catch up with, like a lot of times back home, it's like I get home and people want to grab a beer, they want to catch up, or they want to talk about whatever. Like, like they're like, oh, we need a plan. And I'm like, oh, well, it's Monday through Friday. Like they're working their day jobs. Like I get that. But then for me abroad, like if you're by yourself, like the only people I would hang out with, like when I was living in Indonesia, are people that lived in Indonesia. Like customers would come in while I'm doing my dive master. Like let's say I took them diving that day, and like my instructor's in the back, like supervising, like, and we get done diving, like they're here for 2 days, and they're like, oh, let's go get a beer, like and I'm like, yeah, maybe, probably not though, because I'm not gonna, like,
well, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably just working in a tourist field, because they're there to have fun, and you're living there, so you're like, well, I can't do that, because then I would do that every day.
And it's a weird, like, so like you don't have like people obligations is what I would call it.
Yeah.
Like your brothers kids, like your niece and nephew are like, it's their birthday, you got to do this thing, or like they're in town, so I got to do this. It's like, I don't have any of that. And I mean, we've talked about this before, that I think, especially what I'm doing now, is very selfish. Like traveling halfway across the world is a kind of a selfish thing. Like inherently, like I'm missing time with my niece and nephew, I'm missing time with my family, and it's like, if all you ever think is that way, like you'll never do it, you know? Like
and especially because someday you may eventually have family, it's like, well, then you really can't do anything. Yeah. So I do think people need to be at times more selfish in some sense. Like I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense in my head, but it doesn't come out very well. But it's like, yeah, you should just do what makes you happy. And it's like, yeah, and that in some ways that affects other people, but like you can't have your happiness depend upon, like you shouldn't have your happiness depend on somebody else's happiness. Like,
how do you define happiness?
I just think, like I'm significantly less happier being cold than when I'm warm. Well, no, just like if you're just, I had almost, and I don't remember having like being like just being run down and just in a bad mood and all those things. That just didn't happen. Doesn't happen too often for me on the road. Like there's negative things that happen for sure, like miss buses, or you lose something gets stolen. But I don't know. I just feel like people here, it's so easy to just go through a routine and not change anything and just keep, if you're like kind of unhappy, then just not realizing you're unhappy and just keep doing it. Because you're like, oh, well, it's work, and work isn't supposed to be good. You know, like you're tired.
Or you write it off
like
to something.
Schoolwork. Yeah, you're just like, oh, well, it's easy to explain that. Oh, well, of course I mean, I don't like going to work, so
because it's work.
But it's like, yeah, because it's work, and I'm like, well, you do that 5 days a week, most of your life, so maybe you should do. I mean, maybe that's something to look into. Like, I'm not saying quit your job, but like, I forget where I heard it. It was like, if you're miserable for 2 weeks straight, like you need to somehow change something. Like, I'm not saying quit your job. I'm not saying, but like start working towards fixing that situation. Like temporary uncomfortable, being temporarily uncomfortable is going to come with at least anything that's worthwhile. But if you're like actually miserable and you hate what you're doing, like I'm like, I'm just going to like change. I just need to change.
Do you think that people, it's more the overcoming of their fear? Like people are afraid to change. Is that what stops someone from doing something in life? Because I feel like that people say this a lot in the Western world. I wish I could do X, Y, Z, or like, yeah, I really should do A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Like, and then it just never happens. Like, what is it? Is it that people are content enough? I think people are content enough with where they're at, and they're afraid of what could happen if they were to change something. Like, it's like messing with the homeostasis.
I don't know. I guess I don't know if people are like, people are scared to succeed, and I'm like, I don't know. I guess I just can't relate to that feeling at all, like being afraid of something you want to do. But I guess I'm finding out with, especially coaching this wrestling season, that I don't relate well to a lot of people. I just can't relate to a situation. Yeah. I'm like, because if I was in this situation, I would do something totally different.
You're also not empathetic, though.
Yeah, I'm also very unempathetic. So.
Nor am I.
Wait, yeah, I'm unempathetic. Is that a thing? Is that a word? Wait,
empathetic. Non-empathetic? Wait,
that's an oxymoron. I'm very I don't have empathy. We'll just stick with that. Which I don't have a lot of empathy. So it's like, I think in my head, I've just eventually been like, okay, I just need to like do what I can, but like I guess I always think people will help themselves. Yeah. And that's not the case, and I realize that's not the case, but I have a hard time trying to really help someone who's not helping themselves.
get out of your own
Yeah.
way to allow yourself to
yeah, so that's where when I see people who maybe aren't happy or they're one of these other there's something negative, I'm guessing I just automatically think they're probably doing everything they can to get out of the situation. Now, I know that's not the case, but I'm just like how I can't get should I, and maybe I'm wrong for this, but should I get really wrapped up in their issues? Maybe I should, but I don't. I'm like, oh, that's like, I'll help you if you want help, or if you need some help, and I'll help you no matter what. But if you're not helping yourself, if you're miserable and you're doing nothing about it, and you don't really almost seems to care to do anything about it, it's like,
Well, and if you my thing is complaining, like. You can tell me about it and what you're doing to get out of your situation. I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
But it'd be like if I came back and I was like, oh, dude, I spent $1,000 on this camera gear and I can't afford it. Like, and then just be like maybe money will just grow. It's like, what? Like, get a job. Like, if you know what I mean? Like, don't complain about your situation. Don't act. What makes me mad is if you complain about your situation, you're not actively trying to do something. Like, because like you said, I just don't have empathy. I'm not like, if someone's like, oh, well, like, I'm back, I'm working 7 days a week. I'm like, well, how'd you get in that situation? Like,
yeah.
Like, if you're unhappy with your job or your work, it's like, what are you doing to change it? It's the same thing when someone asks, like, how do I, like, oh, I wish I could travel, like, oh, like it just seems so cool that you're traveling. And I'm like,
well, how much? Yeah, my response to that is just like, do you actually want to, or you just kind of like, is that like a conversation filler? I think for a lot of people it is.
It's like part of that. And like I said, I notice it more in the Western world where it's just like you have these like conversation filling things, like just like, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? And then like, oh, I wish I could do what you're doing. But here's what I've been doing this week. Like, okay. It's the same thing like when you get an automatic response, like waiter drops your food off and like they're like, enjoy your food. And you go, you too. And you like laugh about it. You're like, oh. It's like
you're just saying words.
Whereas like me in a weird serial killer type way, I think about why did I just say that?
Yeah. I when I was at the World Cup in Brazil, I met two older American guys. I think both had Brazilian wives. And they were big soccer fans, and they go to one of them goes to every World Cup. He's been every World Cup since like 2002, and he was probably 40 at that time. And I just remember we were having a conversation. It was after one of the games, and it was after our last game. We got eliminated, and we were just talking, and he's like, we were talking about Russia in 2018 about going to that World Cup, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna go. He's like, man, he's like. I was like, yeah, I know. I got a lot of friends who say they want to go too. And he's like, yeah. He goes, everyone says they want to go.
Yeah.
He goes, and at first I tried to like, all right, hey, no, you really should really try to convince them. And he goes, and no one ever goes. He's like, they'll never go. It's like almost no one will ever go. And he's like, I just stopped caring. I just go, well, I'll be there. I'll see you there. Yep. Let me know when your flight is booked. Because
here's
and
the
that's
days.
kind of his thing. Because it's just like everyone. If you say, would you like to go to the World Cup? Everyone's probably going to say yes. Yeah. Most people are going to be like, yeah. But it's like, I guess just some maybe make it more of a priority, which is fine. Which if you don't want to, I don't think it's a good thing or a bad thing either way. If you want to do it, then do it. If you don't. But that's where I'm just kind of like, I think I've stepped back in a sense of I deal with everything like that. I'm like, oh, I could do that. I'm like, oh, cool. Well, I'll be there. If you want to come, this is when I'm going.
Yep.
My flight's this day. I get in that day. The event's this day. I'll see you there. Like, if you really want help, I'll help you find the cheapest flights if you're ready to book them or whatever that is. Yep. But it's like, I'm not doing anything else. Like, I think people just say it with empty words, and then that's fine. Like, I don't think it's not one of those things where I'm like, oh, you have to go. Yeah. And I want you to go so bad that I'm going to convince you. It's like when you watch a funny movie and you're like, you have to watch it. I'm going to make you watch it. It's like, nah, I'm just going to. I'll recommend it. If you don't watch it, then you don't watch it. But I still enjoy it.
And that's what, like, I think, too, like, like I would say you've probably learned that from being abroad and having to do things by yourself. Like, meaning, like, what I'm trying to say is you're more comfortable, I think there are certain things that people wouldn't do if they had to do them by themselves. So like if there was a big group of people going to the World Cup, like, and you have like, it's kind of like your Belize party. Like you had all these people that had already confirmed. Well, now it's like, oh, well, all these people are going. Like, oh, okay, I'll go. But if you're like the same thing in like a college party. You're like, are you going to Amy's?
It's not a part. Yeah, it was like, well, no one's who's gonna go. It's like, well, no. I mean, I'll let you know. These people said they're gonna go, but no one's there until someone's there.
Yeah,
So,
and it's like you're like, I know I'm gonna be there.
Yeah.
Like I'm flying to Indonesia March 17th. I'm like, people are like, oh, I really want to go to Bali. I'm like, okay, well, I will be in Indonesia March 17th. So, like,
there's flights every day.
Like, that type of thing is, it's like, if you want to do it, or if you have something, like, if it's really something you want to do, I think we talked about it. It's like, you don't say, oh, I wish I could do that. You say, okay, how do I do what you just did?
Yeah. And there's different ways to look. I mean, I'm reckless the other way, where I'm just like, I want to go to that. I'm going to buy a flight. And I'll figure out the money later. Yeah. Like, and it's always worked out, but that's more of a priority, and that's also reckless. Like, I get why people do, I think I just take the blanket thought of they're going to do what makes them happy.
Yeah.
And that's not true. But I think that's the only way I can try to rationalize it in my head. Otherwise, I just get, when someone's not helping themselves, I have a very difficult time helping them. I'm like, like, everyone's got problems. Like, if you don't actually want to do this, you don't have to say it. Like,
yeah, like, I'm not gonna,
like, Nick Ridgway told me, and this, I was like, I love this. He was just like, we were talking about traveling. He's like, yeah, I just don't want to do it. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, I'm glad. Like, everyone says the other way.
Yeah.
And like, and most of them, and not most, but some of them, a lot of them are maybe lying to themselves. And he's like, yeah, I'm just not that interested in it. And I'm like, that's awesome. I'm glad, like, he knows what he wants, and he's just like, yeah, that's something I don't care about. And I'm like, cool. Like, you don't have to be. Like, I don't think it's necessarily like the best thing for everybody. So if you don't like it, just don't. Yeah. No, I love that too.
And being like, I think that comes across more. Well, I mean, he's one of our good friends, but like, from the standpoint of being genuine in your words, like if you're the type of person that like has never like traveled, and you're like, oh, I wish I could go there. And in my head, my first response is, no, you don't. Like, why are you saying that? And normally I'm just like this. Oh yeah, okay. Like, I don't know. I think people are trying to, maybe it's like but
it also just might be like, I know you like it, and like, it would be kind of cool, but. And maybe I like it. It's just, I'm like, you don't have to like it. It's fine. Like, I don't think less or more of you if you've. Yeah. I've met a lot of crappy people traveling too.
Yeah.
I'm like, I would never be friends with you. And then I have friends who have no interest in it, and I'm like, I love hanging out with them more than a lot of people on the road.
Do you remember that guy? Who was that guy in? It was in Europe. The dude from Utah.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that guy? What was his name? Oh, man. And he was just, like, really blunt. Like,
yeah.
And he would just say stuff, and you'd be like,
messing with people. But, yeah, that was just.
I'm like, man, this is not. You're going to get punched. I
like watching this guy from afar. It's like when you have an American, especially, like, someone who's, like, a big Donald Trump supporter, and they go to, like, Europe, and they're, like, brash. I'm like, oh man, I just want to watch you interact with people, because it's like, outside of the U.S., literally everyone hates Donald Trump, except for like certain countries, probably. But oh my gosh, and so like, he was kind of that way. He was like, he was super ugly American, but it was funny. So I forget the guy's name.
I forget his name too. I just remember he's from Utah. But it's funny because like, that's what people have this preemptive like ideology about Americans, because they've met like a bad American or like.
And we have a lot of bad ones that
travel.
Go to Europe.
Yeah. Especially Europe. I don't notice that much as in Asia. Yeah. Asia's not that bad.
Most people's first thought is, well, like, what about that tour group you did in Thailand?
Oh yeah.
I mean, not that they were like ugly Americans by any, but they maybe hadn't traveled that much, and they were in Thailand. So you'll see big tour groups maybe, and now with social media and everything, I think there's obviously more interest in traveling outside of Europe, but Europe's seen as the safest place.
When it's just different. Like and this would be my big thing is like I'm a lot more tolerant of uncomfortability than they were. Like their stomachs were getting like messed up from some of the Thai food, which amazing Thai food. Like I mean, I eat like basically street rats. Like so, what I was eating, I was like, this is incredible. But for them, they're just not used to it. Like, and whereas I tolerate a lot.
And
like,
I remember my first time being out of the country, and I was the same way.
Yeah.
And so I think it
just takes time. It's like with anything, you know.
And it's not even like I mean, you don't necessarily need that. Again, it's like people don't have to necessarily be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like I think that's something I value, of trying to just be okay when things are going wrong. But I mean, not everyone has to have that skill or care about that skill. Like I think it's a good thing, but there's a lot of good things that I don't do.
Yeah.
Like nutrition
or working out.
Like there would be people who like people would think the same way of like I cannot believe someone would eat that crap. Yeah. And I'm like, So in that way I'm like I'm the same type of person in that realm. I'm very just not interested, just at this point, just not interested in like watching what I eat necessarily until, I get why people would be really frustrated with that.
Yeah.
I'm like, why can't you just be more like healthy or more this? I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. I mean, yeah, it's just not interested. And so I think that's the way I see it, I guess, of people like ugly American travelers. I'm like, some of them just don't. That's not a priority of like traveling.
Yeah.
More, I guess. I don't know, but
well, and two, it's like certain places like in Indonesia, I don't have access to the stuff I have in the U.S. The reason I lost so much weight was because I was eating rice for like 80% of my meals.
Oh yeah, remember in Myanmar, the old plain rice with salt and pepper?
It's just
plain white rice, 30 cents. I got 2 of them, 60-cent meals.
And you do what you have to do. Like, but it's like I'm saving money, and like if it comes at the sacrifice of me losing weight, like okay.
Or the sacrifice of eating plain rice for every meal.
Like you do. But I view food similarly to you in that it's a means to an end. Like I enjoy eating healthy food and I do stuff, but I'm like I need to eat to stay alive. But I'm gonna try and put as good of like food in me as I can because I know it helps me mentally and like physically. But then the weird thing, I like when I cook for myself, I'm not a big I don't do a lot of fancy stuff, but I appreciate I have friends that are really big into cooking and making fancy stuff, and I'm like, that's awesome. I just eat like it. I'm like I'm not gonna make it because I don't know what I'm doing, but but I don't know. I'm way more health conscious than you are. Like you eat SpaghettiOs with Cheetos and stuff. So
that's so good though. I'm all about like how cheap and how fast can it be made.
JakeTaylor.fit is hearing this right now and is just losing.
JakeTaylor.fit.
Losing his. What's the? We were gonna do that.
JakeTaylor.bulge.
What? I was gonna say, what was the parody account?
JakeTaylor.bulge.
Rory Kramer started the Matt Como's Arms account.
Oh yeah.
JakeTaylor.bulge. That would have been funny. I don't think people that travel with that we haven't traveled together in a while, but if we were to travel together again, I think people's first impressions of us are like, these guys are like
weird.
Like why did he just want to create an Instagram account for my bulge? Like what? Like,
well,
you know,
it was hanging out. It was hanging out.
Hey,
there
I'm gonna need you to keep that microphone.
Yeah,
by a fist.
my bad.
You know, just make a fist.
Just a fist away.
Make a fist and keep it. I've been wanting to say that.
Thanks, Joe Rogan.
I don't know how long we've been on this thing, but I'm in my head.
I don't know how long we have either. It's probably a few hours. Coming on 2, maybe 3.
I've been waiting for the situation where I could say that, and just now I feel like I've accomplished. Now I've been in a podcast.
There you go.
Now I understand it. I'm just gonna need you to make a.
Yep.
Just make a fist and keep it above.
See, I wonder how the whole traveling and doing podcasting. I think I'm gonna turn this into a. I don't need a guest. It's just me once a week.
Like, what would you talk? Would you go like Chris D'Elia style on it? Like,
it would just be like whatever is going on. So I would do it wherever.
Yeah.
and I would probably just talk about like what I'm doing
Yeah.
or what has happened.
Because that's what
I would like to have a guest, but just people don't want to be on podcasts.
Yeah, and that's my problem is this, like me talking to myself for a while, like I think it's gonna be, it's like the first time you go vlogging, like the first time you hold a camera up,
it'd be weird.
it's really weird. But then like eventually you get used to it, and it's hard. I feel like what Chris D'Elia does, I think is hard. Like I think podcasting by yourself.
Yeah, it's more fun with someone else.
Yeah,
but
well, and because you can.
I also just like doing it. I don't know, it's fun.
And a lot of people won't have the capacity or the will to want to talk for like 3 hours.
Yeah, like I'm like,
or they haven't thought through
when I
it.
see there's a podcast that's like on Joe Rogan that's like 4 hours long, I'm like, oh, it's probably really good.
Yeah,
because if it wasn't good, they wouldn't have gone 4 hours.
Yeah.
So I get excited the longer the podcasts are. It's always so weird how like I'll get the comments on these wrestling videos I'm making on my YouTube channel, linked below, and
selfish plug
for this wrestling team.
Follow the High Tech MP.
You can follow. Oh yeah, I'll put all. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that at the end.
I'll be at the Denver Improv.
Don't
March
go
14th.
to that show.
We were watching Chris D'Elia highlights.
Yeah, we were watching some Chris D'Elia podcast highlights. But like a podcast like that, like okay, I don't find Chris D'Elia's stand up nearly as good as him just riffing with his friends.
Yeah,
I think him just riffing off the top, hanging out with like Brian Callen is so funny. And then like his podcast, his stand up, I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. I don't think it's anything too special. I think it's funny. There's funny things in it, but I'm like, he's so much funnier just being him, just talking and being himself.
Well, and him and Brian Callen, I think, arguably could have one of the funniest relationships in all of podcasts.
It is. And if you guys don't know, you got to type in, just Google Chris D'Elia and Brian Callen and
Fighter and the Kid podcast.
Yeah,
so
it's so funny. And Chris D'Elia is just a guest on it when they do it, but it's really good. So, yeah, that's what I think podcast is cool, is because you actually get, as long as you can get people to be themselves, which I think Joe Rogan does really well, then it's.
I think that's what I'm gonna ask you. I gotta use the ladies' room, but
I'm gonna riff. I'll talk about.
Yeah,
something.
I was gonna say, talk about. I kind of want your take on where's this podcast going. What do you want to do with it, and what do you think makes a successful podcast?
Okay,
like a Joe Rogan. Like
all right, you're gonna have to just listen to this back to know what I say. But okay, where's this podcast going? Well, I have acquired. I'm going traveling, like we kind of touched on a little bit, to Europe and North Africa in the end of next month. I'll be there until June, around that area. Don't have plans. So if you're in any of those areas and you're still listening to this podcast, hit me up and we can grab a nice craft brew. But I got podcast equipment that I can take on the road with me to where I can keep this thing going. And I could probably do it a lot more because while wrestling, these videos are taking forever. But, so yeah, and I'll probably just talk about like what's going on at that point. I got a lot of unpopular opinions, and that's going to be a segment on the show called Unpops. And we just kind of talk about that and, figure out life together, but just me talking to you. Or if you want to be a guest on the podcast, come on. I think everyone has something interesting to talk about. Everyone's interested in something. And I just talk to people about that. Talk to people about whatever's going on, get politics right in the mix. Everyone loves that.
Ooh, dicey. I'm gone for 5 minutes. You start talking about politics?
Boom, politics. We're into it. I know who I'm voting for, and I am going to be voting for Cam Brady, Democratic nominee out of North Carolina.
Cam Brady?
Yep.
Are you talking about, is this what I think it is? I think it is.
Right here. Cam
Sir,
Brady.
have you had 5 or 6 small batch bourbons?
Right there. Cam Brady, 2020.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie.
First, yeah.
This is a completely unrelated topic. Like peeing with overalls are not conducive for activities.
Worst thing I took. So when we went to Asia, I brought overalls as like a joke, and they were like really old and they're too small, and so like they kind of rode a little bit high up in the old crotchal region, And so I had to always pick a side, and it was somewhat obvious, if you know what I'm talking about. And I was like, and there were these massive overalls, like, and I just carried them for
heavy
8 months.
too.
Heavy. Just sitting in the bottom of my bag.
Remember?
I think I wore them 4 times.
And one of them, did you have to wear?
Months.
Did you have to wear them? When, remember me, you, and Jake? Where were we flying when they tried to charge us for a checked bag?
And we were flying into or out of Myanmar. I don't remember.
And we had to put on all our clothes and like carry them on because they were trying to charge us too much money. Like it was like $100 for a bag.
It was me. I think it was Myanmar.
I can't, man.
Flying back to Hanoi. Yeah, that was ridiculous. Like, dude, I just don't. I'm like, okay, if I wear them, I think here's what you should do. You should have a pound limit, a weight limit per ticket. You get a weight limit. Mm-hmm. And now I get the, like, you only get one bag, but like that bag's weight limit can be within whatever the thing is. So if you're a smaller person, if you can have more in your bag.
Yeah.
If you're a larger person, then maybe you have less because it's like, well, the plane can only have so much. It's like, yeah, I get it. You pay for you get a certain amount of pounds to come on with. Because then it's like, okay, so we had to throw all of our clothes on and walk through the thing with them, and then we put them in a bag. And I'm just like, this is so dumb.
It's like, what?
And they made us do it, and we were like holding up the line, and we were in a rush, and I'm like, I was so pissed.
And some of the people, like, it's just like they can't break protocol. They're like, you're seeing, I'm not throwing this away. It's coming on the plane whether I'm wearing it or it's going under the plane. Like, I'm like, how does that ideology not sink in?
Yeah.
Like, I don't get that. But
you only jam it in our camera bags.
And you only see it in Asia. Like, they don't do that in the U.S.
No, not really. I haven't had too many issues in the U.S., but it was. So
Cam Brady.
I just think, man, I used to be so into politics, and I like listen to Bill Burr talk about it, and he's just like, dude, it doesn't matter.
No.
It's like, it doesn't matter.
People care too much.
Yeah, and then they get like people will like in friendships and stuff over it. I'm like, really? Over something like that really probably is not going to ever affect you.
No.
And if it does, it's very minimal.
Oh, yeah. Like your day-to-day life.
My main thing was like, I just don't want Obama to get a second term because of Obamacare or whatever, because now I got to have insurance. I have to pay this money. And that was and then he wins, and I have to pay $900 a year to not have insurance. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's unfortunate, but okay. Now I just have to do that. Like, that's just another thing. And I'm like, doesn't affect me. I'm not less happy because of that. It's like, yeah, that's unfortunate, but I don't know.
I just can't get, like, none of my happiness is tied to that.
Yeah.
And none of who I am is tied to that.
People who just really don't care, I'm like, they seem like they're happier people than people who just really
that don't
care.
play like the identity politics game.
Or just they're just like, I don't really care. Or people who don't vote, I'm like, you're probably happier.
Yeah,
I think you should vote, and I'm going to vote, but I'm going to vote for Cam Brady, so I'm going to waste time, but I mean it's like I voted, and I'm like, I did, but I think people should vote, but it's like my vote's going to mean nothing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Why people like let that stuff affect them? I can just see people like get just so heated about it. I'm like,
well, and it's kind of the same thing. I don't know. Like when people take offense to so much stuff, especially like in the Western world, where it's like, if you just cared less, you wouldn't have this problem. Like if some random person came up to me and said, I despise you as a human being.
Which they do.
It's very evident that I don't care for myself. I mean, other than this incredible outfit that I'm wearing. And I just don't, I don't know. It's like, okay, sorry, guy. Like, you must be having a bad day.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
It's just why so many people have so much invested in caring what other people think. Like, now, people that you care about, like if my brother said, like, dude, why'd you get a Mike Tyson tattoo on your face? Like, then I'm like,
I actually thought for a second you got a Mike Tyson tattoo somewhere on your body.
I did get a new tattoo.
Yeah.
I have 10
It's
now.
a turtle, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Where is it?
That's right.
Where is it?
It's a turtle.
Is it on your thigh?
Donatello.
I was like, Dude, I'm all about this Barbalut.
No, you're not
tattoo.
gonna get. He has this idea.
It's gonna be so sweet.
What is the It's a firma. What's it called?
A
What
truffula tree.
No, the ink type.
Oh, ephemeral.
Ephemeral.
So there's these tattoos.
I want to
that
know
they've
how
developed.
you found this.
I looked up removable tattoos. So ephemeral, ephemeral tattoos. They're tattoos that like last. You can like take them away in like a few years or something like that.
To the four people that listen to this podcast, including because I'm going to use the same episode on the Matt Lena podcast, please comment below and tell him, get a tattoo or don't.
But like, I mean, hey, what if you don't want it after like 6 years?
Then cover it
Here's
up.
the thing is if these ephemeral tattoos were around longer, I would have gotten tons of tattoos, and I'd be like, oh, maybe I want it. And I do think maybe there's an option to where if you do want it after like a certain amount of time, you just don't do anything and it'll stay. But if you don't want it, you can like put the solution on it every day, and then slowly you'll just like poop it out essentially.
Hey,
I'm all about it.
I'm working on my sleeve, on my arm.
I know, but
I'm
what
like,
if
commit to getting a tattoo or don't. That's where I'm at. I don't do this ephemeral
why
stuff.
though?
Like certain things you can kind of be half in, like knitting.
Why can't you be half in on a tattoo?
Or like
what if it's
like
to me,
crock pot meals you
to
can
me
kind of be
it's
half
what
in.
if it was like with clothes? Do you think that's the same? Like, nope, you choose one shirt,
I'll choose one shirt.
and if you only get one shirt, and if you don't like it, well, tough.
Yeah,
commit to it. It's the same thing.
No, it's not.
It's the same thing.
That's not. You can't. I want to make an analogy to another example that you've made, but it's not appropriate for this podcast. And the shirt, it doesn't work. That's not the same. A shirt cannot compare to something that you permanently place on your body. You don't permanently place a shirt on your body.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But tattoos wouldn't have to be that way. If tattoos weren't something that had to be permanently on your body, then they're just not permanently on your body.
Yeah, but what I mean.
The only reason they're permanently on your body is because we don't have the technology to not have them permanently on your body.
Yeah, but I want them permanently on my
okay,
body.
well, then you can keep that option, but there should be options if you don't want them.
What's next? You're gonna say like, we can like, you could have like a rent-a-kid that. If you have a kid, you can rent him for a while.
Child
and then
getting a tattoo are different.
How is having a tattoo and wearing a T-shirt the same?
No. The only reason it's permanent is because we haven't found a way to not make it permanent. If let's say tattoos came out in the first place, what?
You could say that about having children.
Well,
we don't have the means of the technology. # rent a kid.
That would be cool. And when they poop, you can just give them back.
Rent a child.
I'd be down for that. I'm just saying, the only reason tattoos are permanent is because they're permanent. If they weren't permanent, then they're not permanent.
Yeah, you can buy. I believe they make non-permanent tattoos.
Like the idea.
You take 50 cents and you go to one of those coin slot things that they don't make anymore.
But okay, I get that you want it lasting longer than one shower. I understand that. I get why people would even maybe want it for life. But the option of not having it for life, if that was like when tattoos were first invented, if they were like, oh well, we can do this, but we can also like it can go away in 6 months, people would be doing the same thing.
I don't know.
Then they go, oh, maybe we could just get it again. And you just get it again.
Yeah, but
or they'd be like, oh, maybe I'll change it up a little bit this time.
You're gonna sit for that long and then have them do it every 6 months? That would be miserable.
Well, I don't know. Maybe not 6 months. Maybe you could do it for 2 years, or you could just if it's on there and then like, oh, if you ever want to get rid of it, then this is how you do that. So you could have it for as long as you want, and then get rid of it, or not, or just keep it.
I don't know.
I win.
No,
I won that one.
No,
I felt good about that.
Get a tattoo or don't.
Felt good about that one.
You're either a beta or an alpha.
How does that mean anything?
You're either a beta or you're an alpha.
What So you're going back to Indonesia.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
March 17th, the Ogden Theater, I'll be playing. I am going back to Indonesia. Going to be doing some diving, doing some photography.
For the dive shop.
Yeah.
With just your GoPro still.
No.
You get housing?
Oh, dude, I'm getting housing, bro. I'm telling you, I met this photographer. His name's Soph. We were actually just chatting like 2 days ago. Shoots on a Sony A6500 Metamin Komodo when I was diving.
Oh, nice. Was he had it underwater?
Yeah, whole rig. But I'm getting the same. It's called Sea Frogs. I've been sending the guy emails, and I'm like, hey man, I want to send you pictures, and you can give me a discount or something. And he just blows me off.
Yep.
So hey, Salted Paul.
Well, when you are
Follow up.
Hey.
Answer your email.
When you are a camera equipment company, I'm guessing they've gotten offers for pictures before.
Send me.
I'm guessing they're not
discount.
low on pictures.
Discount.
That's like being like, hey, you're a photographer. I'll give you some free pics if you take some free pics of me. Doesn't make sense.
Discount.
It's like going to Rockbrook Camera and being like, yo, you guys need some content here? Because maybe we can figure something out to get some free camera.
They're not a camera company. They're an underwater housing company.
I know, but it's a housing for what?
For a camera.
Oh, so they are a camera company.
I don't sell cameras.
It's okay. We're working. I'm working on it. His name's Salted Paul.
And are they expensive?
Yeah, like $500.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not cheap. But yeah, I'm excited.
They got one for a Sony A7 III.
Yes, they do.
Oh, I see it. $500.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah,
it can go 40 meters. This one.
Which is like, that's normally the max limit that you would need if you're ever looking into that, because most recreational diving.
That's the zoom range for
between 18,
16 to 35. What would you?
I'm using my kit lens. The 15 to 16 to 50, 3.5 to 5.6. Variable.
Yeah, but doesn't that have a? Do they have one for that?
Yeah, you get a zoom ring. It's like so you can zoom underwater. It's cool. And I'm getting a strobe.
Okay,
Nice.
so you're gonna be there, and then how long you be there?
Be 6 months, full social cultural visa, and then I will be coming back to the U.S. for Oliver's wedding and the homie Becker.
So September.
Yeah, September-ish I'll be back.
That's yeah, interesting. Okay.
March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and then so I might go to Vietnam again in September. I don't know. We'll see. Because I think my visa might be up, and then so I might go to Vietnam. I might come home. I don't know.
All right, cool.
But
we can call that. We can wrap it up here.
I like it. We'd like to thank.
Follow the High Tech Hippie Matt Lena
Ogden
on
Theater.
all of his social medias. Your social medias are the High Tech Hippie. High spelled H-I.
Yep, because HIGH was taken. So like hi, hello.
The High Tech Hippie. I'll link it in the show notes or the description. Depends on where you're getting this podcast from. And make sure to follow the Down to Get Weird stuff as well. I'm going to be coming out with a Clips YouTube page after wrestling season sometime. So it won't for sure be for like 2 or 3 weeks. But and then we'll have like little tidbits. So where you don't have to listen to this however long this podcast is, which is probably like 3 hours. You won't have to listen to the whole thing to just find out what's in it, and get some tidbits here and there. So all the stuff, link it up, subscribe, whatever that is, and
good show.
Yeah.
Can't wait to be back.
See you next time. Woo!